Hello, my friends. It's Miss Maria from KFL. I'm here today to bring to you the conclusion of the book that we've been reading, Edie the Garden Fairy by Daisy Meadows. I'm going to be reading chapters 5 and 6 to you today. In the last time we read, we learned that there was a goblin who was making things difficult for the volunteers trying to build the garden. He was making a big mess. When Rachel and Kirsty went up to him to ask where Edie's wand was, he said that he'd lost it. Oh no! Edie and Kirsty and Rachel all worked together to look for the wand, and they found that a fox had it and was running off across the garden with it. At the very end of the last chapter we read, the goblin realized that the fox had the wand and he was chasing it to try and get it back. So the goblin and the girls and Edie are all trying to get the wand from the fox. And that brings us up to where we left off, chapter 5, which is called Which Wand? You can see the picture of the fox there with the wand. Here we go. I think the fox has realized that we're following him too, Kirsty shouted, as the fox cleverly ducked into a clump of tall grass out of sight. Don't be scared, Mr. Fox, Edie called, as the fox reappeared deeper in the field and then bolted off again. We won't hurt you. The fox slowed down a little and glanced up at Edie and the girls, waving his bushy tail to and fro. They could see he had Edie's wand clutched between his teeth. The goblin dashed across the field. Interfering fairies, he screeched furiously. Give me back my wand. The fox looked very nervous and took off again. He ran right into the middle of a tall bush and disappeared. The goblin scared him away, Kirsty groaned. Where's the wand? The goblin demanded suspiciously, staring up at the three fairies as they hovered over the bush. Is it in here? The goblin began shoving the branches of the bush aside. Suddenly, the fox poked his furry head out. The goblin shrieked with glee when he saw the glittering wand. Give that to me, he shouted, trying to grab it from the fox. But the fox was too quick for him. He jumped out of the bush and ran off. The goblin lunged after him, but only managed to grab the fox's tail. Here's the goblin chasing after the fox, and there he is, grabbing the fox's tail. That's not very nice to the fox. The stubborn goblin held on. The fox finally wriggled free, throwing the goblin off balance. Help! The goblin screeched as he fell backward into the bush. He tried to pull himself off, but he got tangled up in his extra large overalls. Edie and the girls couldn't help laughing. There's the goblin tangled up in the bush. Oh my goodness. There's the fox, Rachel whispered. The fox had stopped a little way off and was staring at the goblin, and at Edie, Rachel, and Kirsty with curiosity. He still had the wand in his mouth. If we try to catch the fox, he'll just run off again, Edie said in a low voice. We have to persuade him to give us the wand. We'd better get rid of the goblin first, Kirsty pointed out. She glanced at the goblin, who is still struggling to untangle himself. He just keeps scaring the fox away. I have an idea. Edie winked at them. Then she waved her arms in a pretty pattern, and a few sparkles of fairy magic appeared. They floated on the breeze across the field. One landed on the grass, and Rachel and Kirsty were amazed to see two rabbits pop their head out of a hole at that very spot. There's the rabbits that Edie made appear with fairy magic. They're so cute. Another couple of sparkles settled on a nearby tree. That next moment, 2 squirrels appeared out of the leaves. "Thank you for answering our call for help, my friends," Edie said, as the squirrels and rabbits gathered around them. "Can you distract that goblin while I use my magic to talk to the fox?" The rabbits and the squirrels looked at the goblin, who was still trying to untangle himself. There's the animals looking at the goblin, still trying to untangle himself. Oh my goodness. The squirrels looked puzzled. Rachel frowned. She stared down at the long blades of grass around them, and she suddenly had an idea. "Quick, Edie, make me and Kirsty human-sized again, please," Rachel said. Edie nodded and did so. "Now, Kirsty, help me break off 4 blades of grass, the same size as Edie's wand," Rachel instructed. I wonder what Rachel's idea is. "Oh, I think I can guess what your idea is, Rachel," Kirsty laughed as she selected a tall blade of grass. The girls chose 4 grass stalks in all. Then they opened the magic lockets Queen Titania had given them and sprinkled the grass with fairy dust. Now, the blades of grass shimmered in the sun, just like Edie's wand. "Fake wands," Edie said with a smile, as the girls handed a blade of grass to each of the rabbits and the squirrels. "What a brilliant idea!" There are the girls with the fake wands that they made. That was clever thinking. "Now run off in different directions," Kirsty whispered to the rabbits and squirrels. They all nodded and then scurried away. By now, the goblin had finally scrambled to his feet. "Look," Rachel shouted, pointing across the field. "I see the wand." "Yes, a squirrel has it," Kirsty added. The goblin stopped and glanced around, while Kirsty, Rachel, and Edie held their breath. Would the fake wands fool the goblin? Here are the animals running off with the fake wands. I wonder if they'll fool the goblin. And that's the end of chapter 5. The last chapter, Rainbow Park, has a picture on it that looks like this. That goblin doesn't look too happy. Let's see what happened. "Ah," the goblin jeered, sticking his tongue out at them. "You can't trick me." He pointed in the opposite direction, where a rabbit was hopping along, trailing glitter. "That rabbit has the wand," the goblin yelled, and he chased after it. "Now we can talk to the fox in peace," Edie whispered. The girls walked quietly over to the fox. Edie hovered above them. This time, the fox didn't run away. "Hello," Kirsty said softly. "That wand belongs to our friend, Edie the Garden Fairy, and she'd really like it back." The fox looked stubborn. "If Edie gets her wand back, we'll be able to finish the garden," Rachel explained. "If we don't finish, it'll be turned into a parking lot instead." "There won't be any flowers or trees," Kirsty added. "Just lots and lots of concrete and cement." The fox seemed to frown. He sat there for a moment, and then he placed the wand on the grass. He stepped back. Here's a picture of the fox being stubborn about the wand, and then here he is, giving it to Edie and stepping back. "Oh, thank you!" Edie exclaimed joyfully. She fluttered down and touched the wand, which immediately shrank down to fairy size. The fox smiled and bounded away. Rachel turned as she heard a loud rumbling sound in the distance. "Here come the bulldozers," she gasped. "That means the mayor must have arrived too." Edie and the girls hurried back to the garden. As they went, they saw the rabbits and the squirrels crisscrossing the field in front of the goblin, waving their fake wands. The goblin was chasing first one, then another, looking very frustrated. "I wonder when he'll realize that the animals have pretend wands," Rachel laughed. "I'll send him home soon if he doesn't figure it out," Edie replied with a wink. Here's the goblin still chasing after those fake wands. Oh my goodness. As the girls reached the garden, the bulldozers pulled up to the lot. All the volunteers, including Janet, were gathered around the mayor near the wooden arch. But Rachel and Kirsty were disappointed to see that the garden hadn't been finished. Here's the garden, and you can see that people are still digging, trying to get it all ready for the flowers. That's a lot of work. "Don't worry, girls," Edie whispered, ducking out of sight between Kirsty's hair. "Now that I have my wand, I can help." Rachel and Kirsty watched eagerly as Edie waved her wand. A mist of glittering fairy dust cleared away all the trash in a flash. Another flick of Edie's wand made the flowers bloom just a little more brightly, and it also made all the green leaves shine. Then Edie sent a stream of magic sparkles toward the middle of the garden, and a large bed of beautiful flowers appeared in a rainbow of colors. "Please come and see what we've done," Janet said to the mayor, as everyone turned to look at the garden. "We didn't have much time, but..." She stopped, looking surprised. "Well, it looks even more beautiful than I thought it did." "This is just wonderful," the mayor declared, his face breaking into a smile. "Please show me around, Janet." Here's Janet and the mayor standing in front of the garden, ready to take a look around. "You and the other volunteers have done a great job," Edie whispered to Kirsty and Rachel, as Janet took the mayor on a tour of the garden. "Now that I have my wand, I'm going to take care of all the gardens on Rainspell and everywhere else." "I don't think we need a parking lot here," the mayor announced with a smile. "I think this space should definitely be a wildlife garden." Rachel and Kirsty cheered and applauded with everyone else as the bulldozers rumbled away. Edie looked delighted too. Here's everyone celebrating the garden. I'm so glad they were able to finish. "I need to get back to Fairyland and tell everyone the good news," Edie murmured. "Thank you, girls, and remember to keep a lookout for goblins and wands." Edie blew them both a kiss and disappeared in a cloud of fairy dust. "Doesn't it feel good to do something for Rainspell Island, Rachel?" Kirsty said happily. "After all, this is where we met our very first magic friends, the Rainbow Fairies." Rachel nodded in agreement. "What should we call the park?" the mayor asked Janet. Janet glanced at the cluster of colorful flowers in the middle. "How about Rainbow Park?" she suggested. Rachel and Kirsty glanced at each other with a smile as everyone cheered. "Perfect," Rachel whispered. The end. What a happy ending. They were able to get Edie's wand back and finish the garden in time. Now Rainspell Island will be full of wonderful magical gardens. Do you have a garden at home? Thank you so much for listening to that story with me. It was the perfect story this week for Earth Day. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, my friends.